The gray mornings of Kansas City, that humid, dreary air, always settled over me. Each new day felt like a noose tightening around my throat. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. I was 35, a media planner at Ethelberg Media Group. From the outside, I was successful, sure, but the emptiness inside me was colder than any rain outside. I once had dreams. A big career in media, dazzling ad campaigns, and of course, a happy marriage. My life with Ethan used to look like a perfect picture. But now I was drowning in debt, trapped in a nightmare. And that nightmare had a name, a sharp whiskey scent. Ethan Reed. He was 37, once a promising graphic designer. Those bright eyes, those creative hands, where had they gone? Now they were just clouded by the poison of unemployment, alcohol, and irresponsibility. He'd drift aimlessly during the day, then sink into the murky waters of whiskey at night. Our marriage, once overflowing with love, was poisoned by his alcohol-laced breath and endless failures. He was a chain dragging me down. Breathing with him meant suffocating. Every morning when I woke up, I felt crushed by the weight of the cold emptiness on the other side of the bed. That void beside me was the very void in our marriage. Ethan's carelessness, the eviction notices, the unpaid debts, they all combined to choke me. Getting a divorce felt like taking a breath, like freedom, but how? The figures my lawyer whispered, the negative bank balance, the foreclosure notice. The price of my freedom was too high, and I couldn't afford it. Desperation was a slow-acting poison, seeping into every cell. In the conservative yet ambitious atmosphere of Kansas City, falling was an unforgivable sin. Failure felt like a stain, and I was standing in the middle of that stain, helpless. One evening, just when I thought I'd hit rock bottom, I was called into his office. My boss, Julian Thorne. He was 45, the CEO of Ethelberg Media Group. Julian Thorne, charismatic, yes, the self-assured aura that emanated from him as he moved around the room, his desire to dominate everyone. Everyone regarded him with a mix of admiration and fear. His eyes were an icy blue, reflecting the hollowness of wealth and power. He was one of the company's founders, cunning, manipulative, and yes, immoral. His success was built on shady deals and covered-up scandals. In that moment, I realized once again that he was a predator. Julian sat at his desk, with that sickening, inscrutable smile on his face. "Eleanor," he said, his voice silky smooth but his gaze as sharp as a knife. "I know how difficult things are for you. Your debts, Ethan's situation, it all reached our ears." He was smiling, as if he enjoyed my distress. He slowly slid an envelope across the table. It was thick, substantial. Inside, it felt like the price of my life was written. "One night," he whispered, his voice low as if sharing a secret. "One night, with me. In return, $1 million. My breath hitched. Inside, a disgusting laugh burst forth, then a cold revulsion. My stomach churned. I tried to swallow, but my throat was constricted. This felt like selling my soul, like trampling my dignity. "Never," I whispered to myself, the words coming not from my lips but from the deepest part of my heart. "Never." But when I closed my eyes, the eviction notices at home, Ethan's drunken moans, the creditors at the door, all those terrifying scenarios for the future, they all combined to choke me. Desperation had wrapped itself around my dignity like a rope. I pushed myself out the door, leaving Julian's startled yet mocking gaze behind me. That night, and the days that followed, I learned there was a price for my refusal. Julian hadn't given up. Secret messages started arriving on my phone, in my emails. At first they were simple, like, "I knew you'd change your mind." Then the tone shifted. "Your debts are piling up, Eleanor. My offer is your salvation." Sometimes it wasn't direct, sometimes it was disguised as a reference to a new Ethelberg media project, but the underlying threat and invitation were clear. Every message was like a blow to the fortress of my resistance. I couldn't sleep at night. Ethan's situation grew worse each day. Debts multiplied and the tension at home soared. My freedom felt like a distant, unreachable dream. One morning, I realized Ethan had quietly slipped out of the house with his keys. He'd taken his wallet and phone, too. I didn't hear from him for a week. For a whole week, I struggled alone in that spiral of debt. And right then, another message from Julian arrived. Time is running out. This might be your last chance. In that moment, the last shred of resistance within me shattered. I had to surrender. I cast aside my dignity, my self-respect, everything. With a brutal acceptance born of desperation, I replied to that message. That hotel, the Monarch in Crown Center. The city lights danced outside, but inside me, everything had died. As I walked through the door of that opulent suite, even the scent of fresh flowers made me nauseous. On Julian's face, there was a disgusting triumph of having won. Words hung in the air, neither of us spoke. His gaze, as it moved over me, was like looking at a piece of meat. I closed my eyes. I felt like a guest inside my own body. I was there, but at the same time, thousands of miles away. Every touch felt like a needle prick. Time stretched, extended into eternity. Shame was embedded in every fiber of my being. My tears didn't fall, they just flowed inward. Every breath I took was like a gasp drawn from between the bars of a prison. The silence in the room was filled with the screams of my soul. Every moment of that first night would be etched into my memory like a claw mark. My freedom, for which I'd paid such a price, was now stained with blood. That night, a part of me died. But with that dying part, a fire of vengeance began to burn inside me. I had refused. With every fiber of my being, I had refused. I tried to protect my honor, myself, my past, all of it. But life wouldn't let me refuse. The debts, Ethan's bottomless pit, the despair for the future, it all cornered me. There was no escape. I had to pay the price. The morning after that repulsive night with Julian, the $1 million landed in my bank account. The figure in my balance left me both breathless and with a disgusting void. One part of me felt relieved, yes. Debts would be paid, eviction notices torn up, but the other part, that money was tainted with blood, paid with a piece of my soul. I immediately went to my lawyer and filed for divorce. Ethan's objections, his drunken ramblings, were just formalities. He'd already given up anyway. The lawyer smiled, debts were closed, I tore up the eviction notices one by one. It was as if I had escaped from a prison. But the freedom I gained was stained with blood. When I looked in the mirror, I couldn't stand the stranger I saw there. A different expression had appeared in my eyes, colder, sharper, and in that void, a new seed sprouted. Revenge. Not just on Ethan, but especially on Julian. On the man who made that disgusting offer, who exploited my desperation. Just as he had cornered me, I would corner him. But this wouldn't just be a personal reckoning. Julian Thorne, he was a monster who manipulated everyone, abusing his power not just with me, but with everyone in the company, his business partners, even his own family. His downfall wasn't just my only path to freedom. Perhaps it would be the silent revenge of many others in this city. During this time, the anxious gaze of my closest friend, Chloe Davies, would warm me for a moment. Chloe Davies. She was 33, a reporter for a local newspaper. She had a sharp mind, and her eyes were always searching for the truth. She was idealistic, passionate about her profession, and burned with a desire to help people. She had always been my biggest supporter, but at the same time, her commitment to honesty kept her from the dark path I was on. She was the voice of my conscience. "Eleanor, are you okay? Something's changed in your eyes," she said during a coffee break. I knew it. I was changing. I had to change, but I couldn't tell her. This was my dark secret, my curse, and my only way out. There was no other way. The fire of revenge within me even overshadowed Chloe's rightful concern. My plan slowly began to take shape. My second offer to Julian would shake his reckless self-confidence. When I made him the second offer, the look of shock on Julian's face, that brief moment of hesitation, was priceless. I cleared my throat, my voice smooth and determined, as if I were proposing the most mundane business deal. 2 nights, $2 million, I said. I saw his eyes widen for a brief second, then that familiar, mocking smile returned. He accepted. I was no longer a victim. I was a predator, and my prey was that disgusting man. This time, I was dealing the cards. I didn't even consider a hotel room for the second night. I didn't want to breathe in the filth of that first night, that shame, ever again. Tonight, it would be my game, under my control. This wouldn't be a place for Julian to fulfill his fantasies, but a courtroom where I would expose his true face. I was a media planner, yes, and he had built a media empire. Now, I would use his power, his own medium, against him. The irony filled me with a sweet sense of revenge. Through Chloe, I rented an old, abandoned media production office. It was perfect. Large, empty rooms, old equipment in every corner telling a story. This was my fort, my studio, my world. I meticulously prepared the room. Dim lights swallowed the corners of the room, softening sharp edges. The calm notes of classical jazz spread through the room like a curtain hiding the tension. The ambiance seemed sensual and comforting, just as Julian would imagine. As I slowly sipped the wine in my glass, I smiled at the tiny, expertly placed eyes, the cameras, microphones. All tiny, invisible. Every square inch was recorded, every word, every sound, every single breath. Tonight, for him, it's a fantasy, a reward. But for me, it's a courtroom. For me, tonight is the foundation of his destruction. The evidence is accumulating here, silently, meticulously, certainly. He saw himself as so superior, he couldn't even imagine a woman like me hatching such a plan. He was so reckless, so secure in his own power. That was his biggest mistake. Julian arrived. On his face, that familiar, mocking, self-assured smile. He drank my wine, made small talk, whispered that this night would be special. Every word, every touch, that disgusting laugh, all of it would become pieces of evidence that would one day shake his throne. I saw desire in his eyes, and power. He suspected nothing. The recording devices captured Julian's every word, every move, every despicable act of recklessness. I recorded that entire night. Not a single detail escaped. This wasn't just a video recording, it was the manifesto of his downfall. I didn't just have video recordings. To bring down Julian Thorne, I needed to expose the corruption that permeated every corner of his life. This was a multi-layered blackmail plan. It was like a game of chess, but this time, every piece was Julian's own mistake. First, my personal story. Everything from my initial refusal of Julian's offer to the insidious, insistent messages he sent me. Every text message, every email on my phone, proved how immoral, how manipulative, and how relentless a predator he was. My dignity in that first moment of refusal, my subsequent desperation, and my eventual surrender. These revealed not just my truth, but his true face too. These messages would prove how he abused his power, how he cornered me in my weakest moments. Chloe was my greatest ally. Her journalistic integrity, her commitment to ethical values, and her sharp intellect were invaluable to me in this dark operation. The documents Chloe provided proved how Julian used Ethelberg Media like his personal piggy bank, how he squandered company resources for his own lavish expenses, inflated invoices for fake projects, the CEO's personal vacations paid from the company budget, even payroll for some phantom employees. Each document further validated his immorality. When leaked to the press, it would be a death warrant for Julian's career. When Chloe handed me these documents, I saw the concern and disgust on her face. "My stomach turns doing this, Eleanor," she said, "but I know it's the right thing to do." I heard the voice of her conscience, but for me, there was no turning back. Marcus Croft, Julian's business partner, in his 40s. Marcus Croft, he was Julian's shadowy mastermind within the company, a conservative financial advisor. Ambitious, but not as reckless as Julian. He was fed up with Julian's manipulations and Chloe's infidelity. My relationship with him was a game, yes, but Marcus was also tired of Julian's dark operations and was willing to become an inside mole. He, too, carried the pain of the betrayal. Perhaps that's why he was able to trust me. His help was vital in reporting internal irregularities within the company. Tax evasion, unfair competition practices, illegal campaigns against rivals. The data Marcus provided would completely unmask Julian, forcing him to account for his actions before the law. But perhaps my most ruthless card was this: the personal letters Julian had written to his wife years ago. Stored in a private collection, filled with words of love, family secrets, his most intimate thoughts. These were his weakest point. How I obtained these letters was unclear, but they were now in my control. If leaked, they would destroy not only his company, but also his marriage and what little reputation he had left. This would be the dirtiest, most personal blow I could deliver. That boardroom meeting, it was the most important presentation of my career. But this time, I wasn't presenting a product. I was presenting the rotten reality of Julian Thorne. The footage, the videos, Julian's recklessness in that hotel, what he said, what he did, the disgusting words that tumbled from his own mouth, proving everything. Then my correspondence with him, those hidden messages showing how persistently he pursued his offer, everything came to light. Following that, Chloe's documents, Marcus's meticulously prepared reports, the irregularities that gnawed at the company's core, and finally, those personal letters. Whenever his wife's name was mentioned, a chilling silence fell over the room. Julian's face, combined with his usual confident, mocking mask, slowly turned white. His eyes widened, bloodshot. He tried to deny it, he stammered, but the evidence was too solid, coming directly from his own voice and writings. I saw hatred in his eyes, pure rage directed at me, but even more than that, I saw fear. In that moment, the taste of victory was like the taste of blood in my mouth, sweet and ruthless. The decision was final. He was forced to resign, and he had to transfer half of the company's shares to me. Half of Athelberg Media Group would be mine. I, who was once his slave, was now the heir to his empire. My hands hadn't trembled when I signed that transfer agreement. This was the greatest victory of my life, and the price was immeasurable. Or so I thought. I gazed out the window of my new office at the rainy Kansas City sky. The city seemed to mirror the emotions within me. It was gray, hazy, but at the same time it shimmered with a cruel victory. I was here. I was at the top. I was powerful. The revenge was complete. Julian Thorne vanished overnight. His name was mentioned in the news. His reputation's collapse made headlines. Then he quietly fled the city. He disappeared, just like Ethan. I didn't care where Ethan had gone, or at least I convinced myself I didn't. Their absence didn't bring the peace I expected. It only left behind a new, larger void. Chloe's warning words echoed in my ears. You'll become just like him. Did I? I don't know. But the bond between us thinned. An invisible wall built up. She no longer looked at me with that old warmth. There was questioning in her gaze, a distance. Maybe she was right. Maybe I truly had changed. And with that change, I'd lost my most trusted friend. I was alone. At the summit, but utterly alone. The price of this power had been unexpectedly heavy.
Revenge?
A bittersweet victory. I destroyed them. But did I lose myself too? The emptiness in my soul was deeper than any success, any revenge could fill. Perhaps this void was revenge itself. Loneliness was the shadow of victory. There was an empty notebook on my desk. Was it a symbol of my achievement or a mirror of my loss? Kansas City's gray sky was once again pressing down on me, but this time, raindrops took the place of my tears. Perhaps freedom lay only in forgiving myself, in accepting the choices I made on this dark journey. Perhaps this was a new beginning. But what kind of beginning? Could the old Eleanor ever return? Or was the new Eleanor condemned to this solitude? Victory was the loneliest scream.